If you want high performance, you've got to show high performance and you've got to invest in high performance. So you've got to set the bar high. Once you start getting close to that bar, you've got to then set a new bar because high performance should always be evolving.
There are 5 key principles that you've got for driving this high performance culture. What's the first thing that you need to deploy in order to make sure that your staff are performing as they should do?
You're only as good as the people that you have. If you get the wrong people in, it's a domino effect. But even if they're not the best in their game, if they've got the right attitude to work towards it, you'd rather have that person in there because you don't want an echo chamber. Of course, you don't want everyone thinking the same and moving the same, but they all know where they want to get to and they can challenge each other along the way. So if you have that culture of excellence and everyone's striving to be the best that they can be, then you trust them, even if you disagree with them.
In order for your team to perform, you've got to have the right culture. And I'll be talking about AI or the technologies that power all of this, or the marketing tactics and the innovations that they're, deploying. But the reality is, if you don't have that high performance culture, none of the rest of it works. Hi guys, and welcome to Marketing in the Madness. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm going to introduce myself because I never usually do that. So my name's Katie Street. I'm the host of this podcast, the founder of Street Agency. And I don't know, I'd like to think of myself as a bit of a marketing expert, but also someone that loves to support females and empower us to, develop a better workspace that's fairer, that's got gender equality and all those lovely things. So that's what I'm all about. But today, it's not all about me. I've got my fantastic, nearly, as of next week, client from E.ON, Abdul. Abdul, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself because you're going to do a much better job than I am.
Yeah, well, thank you. So my name is Abdul Khaled. I am currently the head of digital and customer experience at E.ON Next. Been there for about 3 years now. Building up a new digital team and then really trying to drive forward an industry-leading customer experience agenda. Before that, spent quite a few years at Cisco, so looking after quite a few sort of global operations from the Cisco global team and then moving more into managing an EMEA team, which was nice. So it's going from Cisco, which is a global organization, to E.ON, which is a global brand, but I'm working for E.ON Next, which is a startup. So quite a varied sort of background there just in recent times, but even before that, a lot of sort of brands within product, design, engineering, so quite a varied, multidiscipline background.
I love that. I mean, you have just the best attitude, I think, to business out of anyone I've spoken to for a long, long time, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be about the culture that ignites growth. I often talk about marketing growth on this podcast, but in order, you're running a digital team, in order for your team to perform, you've got to have the right culture. And I mean, especially at a company like E.ON Next, which I guess is like you say, it's the startup part of E.ON, you've got to have that culture embedded, and it's got to be maybe slightly different, but maybe there's a lot E.ON can learn from its baby brother or sister.
Yeah.
So tell me about, let's start with E.ON Next. How does E.ON Next differ for people that don't know the difference between E.ON and E.ON Next? Because this is helpful for me as well. Tell me about the difference between E.ON and E.ON Next.
So E.ON Next is a UK brand. It's just over 3 years old now. And the idea behind E.ON Next was, could we set up a challenger brand in the UK to kind of change the way that people view energy? Because if we're being honest, energy, not the most exciting space in the world, but it's very important. Like, we all need it. And it's traditionally been a low interest category, but obviously during the energy crisis, it became high interest category, but probably for the wrong reasons. So I think we were kind of foreshadowing that there was a situation where we need to be more proactive, more transparent, more customer centric, more digital first. And it just happened that the energy crisis happened very quickly after we launched, which meant that we had to accelerate that agenda. And I think the idea is, if you're working in an organization that has already set impression for the audience for many, many years, such as some of the big six firms have, it's very difficult to be able to then suddenly navigate and provide a different alternative message for your brand. And so the idea was, could we set up a completely new brand, new board, new direction, to be able to bring something fresh to the customer base? And there was always debates about, should it still have the name Eon, or should it be something completely different? But what we have to be careful about, Eon itself has built a good brand. It has good credibility behind it. And I think in a space such as energy, where especially during last few years, we saw a lot of energy companies going bust and out of business, having something completely new into the market is also a little bit difficult for customers to buy into and trust. Is this company going to be here for the long run? So we're taking the best of what Eon has to offer, which is the brand and the credibility and the security and the scalability, and giving it a different sort of touch with the new brand, and being more edgy, more out there, more risky. And it's all driven by the culture, because you can only achieve all of those things if you've got the right culture internally. So it's challenging sort of mindsets, challenging traditional ways of working, and seeing, could we bring a different value and ethos into the mix to be really customer-centric, digital first, and bring something fresh and new to the market. Which
is super exciting. And you've been there since day dot to help form this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
pretty
joined,
much.
Yeah, I joined a little bit after, but in terms of the digital space, it's really driven that agenda from the beginning of our digital adventure, really.
So what does that mean in practice as a business? What are you doing culturally to drive that kind of growth mindset and break away and do things a bit differently?
So I think there's the message that we send outwardly is customer centricity. So that's our North Star. That's where we want to be. That's where we want to work backwards from. Really trying to be customer first. And I think that's really important in this space where energy companies, naturally for customers, is always greedy. They're not in it for us, they're in it for them. And that's the traditional stereotype. So to be able to break away from that is to be really customer first, really customer centric, provide customers with the value that they need and the experiences that they need. And knowing naturally, if you prioritize that, all of the other things that you should actually care about as a responsible business will fall into place. But prioritize the customer first. So that's the North Star approach, and that's where the culture is built on. But what I believe in terms of how you can execute that is you have to be good at the job. So if you want to create great experiences, great products, or deliver great services, you have to be good at what you do. Customers demand excellence, otherwise they'll go somewhere else. So in order to deliver that excellence, you need to have a culture, and sort of this is what we emphasize quite a bit, is high performance, right? How can you get people in your organization, individuals within the business, to be operating at the highest possible level in order for you as a business to then produce the highest level of service, product, experience, and ultimately then drive that customer-centric experience for the customer. So it's sort of, that's the North Star, customer centricity. But the vehicle that takes you there is high performance. And that's the culture that we've really doubled down on.
It's weird, isn't it? Because often I'll be interviewing people and I'll be talking about AI or the technologies that power all of this, or the marketing tactics and the innovations that they're, deploying. Mm. But the reality is, if you don't have that high performance culture, none of the rest of it works.
Yeah. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
It's so basic, but you have to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes high performance, as I said, it should be the norm, but it can get conflated sometimes with toxicity and high pressured environment and intensity, which are all red flags in a lot of organization. But if you're not modeling it and presenting it in the right way, you can shy away from it and then come across as not valuing high performance. And that's a disservice to your customers, but also a disservice to the individuals, because as an individual working for any organization, you want to be the best version of yourself. You want to be continuously improving and challenging yourself. And the only way you can do that is having that focus of performance and saying, look, we want to make sure that you get to the highest level of performance that you can for yourself, first and foremost. And if we can invest in you as an individual, naturally the products and services that we produce as an organization will be the best in the market. And that's the only way that the customers are going to be coming back to you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not, God, I'm going to say this wrong. Rocket science? Is that the right way around?
It's not rocket science, yeah.
No, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But we forget, we focus too much on the tactical things that we deploy rather than the internal culture. So I know for a fact that you guys are doing this brilliant. I mean, one, you're just a lovely person. So as you can all see, I'm sure, but there are 5 key principles that you've got for driving this high performance culture, which we're going to dig into today. Can you, I mean, I do have them all on my phone. So if we need to, I can go there, but I'm sure you probably know them off by heart. Can you give me the number one thing? So let's start at the beginning. What's the first thing that you need to deploy in order to make sure that your staff are, performing as they should do?
And it's just that, the staff, so talent.
Yes.
So you're only as good as the people that you have. So what can you do as an organization to A, find the best talent in the market that's right for you? And B, how do you then facilitate the talent that you already have in your organization to be able to get up to that level that you need them to be and continuously make sure that they're improving and reaching that level? So talent is a big one. And that's a difficult one to crack, because if you get the wrong people in, it's a domino effect, right? It will influence the decisions that they make. If they are then managers that then go and hire other people, it's just a knock-on effect. It also creates an environment where some of your A players will lower their level naturally if you've got too many B players. If you flip it around and you've got a team of A players and you chuck a B player in there, naturally they will come up to that level. So it has a knock-on effect. But it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And I think what happens with a lot of organizations, and this is the mistake that I went through as well, you've got your day job to do. So how much time can you really invest in recruitment and finding the right talent? Not a lot in many cases.
No, I struggle with that.
Yeah, you've still got a day job to do.
Yeah.
So you end up compromising in many cases. You find either the process hasn't been that great and you've kind of find someone on a surface level that looks good, fits the model, and you brought them in and then later on found out actually they're not the right fit, or you're making compromised decisions, especially if you're doing a massive recruitment drive, as I did, where you had to hire a lot of people in a short amount of time. And I think there's 2 ways that we've managed to overcome it. Number one is being able to go and get short-term talent in to fill a gap, to alleviate some of the pressure, so then you can actually go and spend some time on finding the right talent. Now that's expensive. Not a lot of companies want to take that approach because finding temporary talent is expensive. But you've got to think long-term, because hiring the wrong people has such an expensive knock-on effect. I just don't think you can afford to do that.
No.
It's much better to go and get temporary talent in, invest upfront a little bit for the long-term success of the business, to alleviate some of that pressure. And those are low risks because most likely they can come in and do a job. They might not be the best fit, but it's just getting things moving to give you the necessary time and effort that you need to then go and find the talent. So if you've got that, if you've got sort of bums in seats to kind of give you a little bit of time and a little bit of pressure, you then need a kick-ass recruitment partner, because that's where I've had the biggest success. And that can be either external or internal, and I've had both. I've worked with, and recruiters have a bad rep.
Yes, they do. They're even worse than estate agents.
Yes, they do. So I don't want to add more fuel to that fire, but if you don't find the right partner to work with, they're just going to flog you whatever they can, right? Yeah. You need to have someone that, and that word partner is so key. You need to have someone that understands you, that works with you, that knows what you're looking for, and is able to filter out some of that talent pool so that you're more efficient in how you approach your recruitment.
It's almost like thinking of it, and I have this, I'm very lucky we have someone amazing. Shout out to Heidi, from who's our she's more of a holistic HR person from Scorer HR. But, she'll step in and help. she understands our values. She's helped us create those values, and she'll step in and help in those interview processes. And she knows the cultural fit of the right person for Street based on our values. And she knows me. We've worked together for many, many a year. But that is, for me, I have to have that because we're a really small business. And without that support, we wouldn't get anywhere when it comes to recruitment. So I do think, yes, they have had a bad rep, but think of them, and you can see them. I do feel like it's getting better. I don't get as many crappy outreach messages from recruiters. And actually the positioning of a lot of them is more as a holistic HR recruiter that's going to be able to help you do lots of different things when it comes to, building the right talent and finding you the right people.
So shout out to Heidi.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out to Connor Hayden, who's my external recruiter that I've used for many, many years.
Amazing. It's always good to know. This is what we like. We want the tips. These guys are listening.
He helped me build multiple teams at William James Consulting. So good shout out there. And then what I've done in my current role is then hired an internal recruiter because we had to go on a massive recruitment drive. So I've, again, we'll give a shout out to Mike Jewell, who's famous amongst the Eon streets now because he's hired more than 25 people for me in 2 years.
Wow.
And he's an internal recruiter. So the difference with external and internal is he works with me in my team. He's in the office. He's there day in, day out. If you walk into our offices, you wouldn't know who's a recruiter and who's the talent in the team because he's embedded himself within the team. He's there. He goes to all our socials.
Love
and
that.
obviously he's hired everyone. So
it's everyone's best mate.
It's Mike's babies is what we call it. But he understands the culture. He lives and breathes what we do on an everyday basis. He knows how I operate and how I work upfront and personal, not over one phone call, a briefing call, and then that's it. He's never seen me again. And what that allows us to do is build that culture of like-minded individuals, because that culture is so, so important. Do they have the right chemistry? Do they have the right fit? Because you don't want someone to come in that's going to disrupt the whole apple cart, no matter how talented they are. I'm going to steal something from Simon Sinek. I watched a presentation of his, which is amazing, when he replayed some of the things that the Navy SEALs do, where they have this sort of quadrant of trust and performance. And so high performance, low performance, high trust, low trust, right? Your typical consultant quadrant. And what the Navy SEALs do, they would always go and hire a mid performer that had high trust over a high performer that had low trust, right? And obviously trust in this instance can mean quite a few things, but it's not about getting the most talented person that can then sometimes be a bit of a jerk and then upset the whole culture. It's about getting someone that has the right attitude with all, they have to have a necessary level of skill set that can mean that they can contribute and add value. But even if they're not the best in their game, if they've got the right attitude to work towards it, you'd rather have that person in there than someone that doesn't have that. So we really prioritize that. And what Mike does is he'll be there just screening people based on the culture and the set of beliefs that he knows that I want and he knows that the team want. And what that's resulted in, honestly, a team that we've built where I've never seen this, but they're genuinely friends, right? And I know a lot of people will say this, that they have this in their teams, and that's great. But I genuinely see these they enjoy coming to work. When we have tube strikes in London, which is quite common, they'll come the following week. Like, we missed each other. We missed coming to the office. Okay, this is amazing. And you know this as well. They're going on holiday next week, right?
Yeah.
A whole group of them.
Amazing.
I hope they come back in one piece. But that's the level of trust and camaraderie and chemistry that they've built. And it's people of like-minded thoughts. They've got the same ambition, the same vision, but also a diversity in terms of approaches, which means that they can still challenge each other, because you don't want an echo chamber. Of course, you don't want everyone thinking the same and moving the same, but they all know where they want to get to, and they can challenge each other along the way. And that trust that's been built between them means that they can openly and candidly challenge each other as well, which I think is fantastic. So talent, and then making sure you just don't just bring the right talent in, but create the environment for that talent to succeed in and thrive in is so, so crucial.
I love that. You're making me really think about our recruitment process there, because it's so true. One thing that we probably don't have as many structural rules around it, which I'm thinking I may introduce with Heidi. But is, I always recruit based on my gut feel of the person and how they'll fit into the team rather than just their skills. So it's so important because, like you say, you can have the most amazing, skilled, driven person, but if attitudinally they don't fit in with your team and they're going to rub people up the wrong way, the whole thing falls apart. And and I've seen it happen, when I've been employed and even when I've, made the wrong decision recruiting someone. So having a process that enables you to spot that. And, we've done things like Myers-Briggs tests in our recruitment process so that we can see, the only problem, and I don't know if you've got an answer for this, that I potentially see is like attracts like, right? So we did this. We actually did the whole Myers-Briggs or colours, insights stuff after we'd recruited. And I had accidentally recruited everyone in my leadership team exactly the same as me. Yeah. And then all of the campaign managers, delivery people were all exactly the same. Wow. We literally, I can't remember how many different profile types there are, but we had 2 different types. And I think there was one other lady who was different, and that was it. Like literally out of like 14 or something of us at the time, there were 2 groups, 4 of us one way, 10 and maybe one other slightly different. Yeah. So how do you, because of course you want diversity, right? Yeah. Because you need that. So how do you, I don't know if you've got the answer to this, but how do you make sure that you don't recruit, mini versions of yourself?
Well, I think this is where if you've made the mistakes,
yes,
right, it's only a learning for the rest of us. So thank you for making those mistakes, because that's been something we're conscious of. So what we do is we try and find a set of principles that we definitely want to make sure we have that are alike, right? And they're more sort of cultural and value specific. But then you have, and this is where we're conscious, because we know that people have made these mistakes, and I've made these mistakes before. As I said, you don't want to create that echo chamber. So you do go and try and find people that are different to the usual set of people that you have, something that they can bring something different to the table, an area that they can challenge your thoughts. I love people that can challenge me. And I think, maybe we can talk about this now as well. The other sort of real value-driven concept that we have that then contributes towards trust and creating that environment is disagree and commit.
Oh, I like this.
So this is stolen from Jeff Bezos, Amazon. And the idea is, rather than arguing and debating and going back and forth and falling out with people and not making a decision, you have enough trust in the people around you to say, you're hired for a reason. And it goes back to high performance. So if you have that culture of excellence and everyone's striving to be the best that they can be, then you trust them, even if you disagree with them. And you have to have some mechanisms in place to allow that decision to then come to life, which I'll get to in a minute. But it's the idea that we can have healthy decisions or healthy disagreements, but we just trust in each other to say, we'll go with you. And then you have your test and learn approach. Because rather than debating the merits and the pros and cons of this decision, so, all right, fine, let's just go and test and learn. And that's going back to your earlier question around what's the difference between E.ON Next and traditional companies. It's the flat structure. It's the startup mentality. It's the ability to go and test an idea tomorrow that you have today and not having to go through a business case and budget approvals and all of that stuff. Go and test an idea. So rather than, say, company A, where they probably spend about 3-4 weeks kind of debating and then going to an escalation meeting and another board meeting and then still not made a decision. In that same period, we can say, right, I don't know about this idea, but sounds promising. Like, you're here for a reason. Let's go and test it.
Let's do
test it with real customers, get some data, validate or invalidate your idea. You're moving at speed. So that then removes all the toxicity around the politics of work where, I have an idea, but I don't really agree with it. I want to put my views forward. Just remove all of that and just say, look, we're here as one team. We're working towards one mission. We're going to have challenging ideas because we want that. That's the only way you can really push that bar of excellence is if you're challenging each other's thoughts. But disagree and commit to test and learn.
I love that. Disagree and commit. I love it. I'm taking that one. Now, I am going to get my phone out because, why not? And I want to make sure I cover every point. Now, we may have covered some of this already. The next point, talent was the first one. The next point that I've got is trust,
Yeah.
which we've kind of
Yeah.
covered, but should we delve a bit deeper?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think sometimes building trust within teams it takes time. And sometimes you can be tactical around it. So the things I mentioned around disagree and commit, it almost takes the trust away, because by default you're there knowing two things. Number one, everyone around me is of excellent, and we're striving towards the best that we can. So that almost by default you're walking into an environment, and obviously we've got good success and good results to kind of prove that. So anybody new coming in knows, right, we're walking into the all-stars essentially, right? So by default there's already a level of trust there, and then that whole approach of test and learn and disagree and commit then allows you to trust people with almost a warranty.
I love that.
Right? Because you're not blindly trusting, you're kind of half committing somewhat, knowing that the data will prove or invalidate the assumptions, right? So it's almost easier to kind of half commit to then see it play out, and then you got more opportunities to trust people in the future. So that's more tactical. But strategically, what we try and do is we really want to understand the person behind the role. And that's a strong emphasis that I have, because when you start understanding and connecting with people on a human level, and you know who they are and the reasons why they make certain decisions and how they operate, it's much easier to build that connection with them and understand them on a human level, and then to be able to build that trust and rapport with them. If you just see them as an analyst or an engineer, sometimes it's difficult to get past that. So again, going back to the recruitment process, my first question in any interview is, Katie, tell me who Katie is, the person. Don't want to know about your careers. Tell me who you are as a person. I want to know you. What makes you tick? What's your pet peeves? What's your life journey been so far? And when we introduce people into the team, so once they're hired, I again ask them to introduce themselves as the person. And then we have an initiation, which always catches people off guard, because it's usually we have sort of our team huddles remotely just to get everyone together on a Monday morning. No one likes coming to the office on a Monday. And what we say is, the initiation is, welcome to the team, Katie. Obviously, introduce yourself in terms of who you are. Now, pick something from your vicinity that has some sort of meaning or holds a memory or talks to us about a little bit about who you are and your personality. That already breaks the ice. So it's not, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm an analyst and I do this. No, it's, I'm the person, here's who I am. Let me share something that tells you a little bit about my character and personality. And then we talk about what you do.
Yeah.
So now when I meet you in the corridors, I know who you are as an individual first before I know what your role is. And I think that helps really to break that ice first and foremost, make it more personal, make it more human, but really forces us to build those relationships. And then I can probably move on and talk to you about a little bit about our de facto chief happiness officer.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah. So this is obviously I can't have a role for chief happiness officer. I think that's probably not quite there yet. But we've got someone in the team that almost takes that role on. So we're about near enough 50 people right now. So it's a big team, and there's a lot of individuals and there's a lot of things to kind of take care of. And the more and more the team grows, the more separation it gets from me. And I always want to stay close, but it's not practically possible to stay close. So I almost got someone in the team to fulfill this role, primarily to look after the happiness of the team and to show the team that we're investing in their happiness. So anything that they need discussing or that's on their mind at work or outside of work, they've got someone there to go to, because they're not always comfortable to come to their manager or someone above their manager. Sometimes you have a situation where you think my issue is too small to bother the manager, but it's not. And I want to show that any issue or any problem that you have, there's someone there that you might feel a little bit more comfortable having that conversation with. And then she's able to identify things in the team, anything that we need to kind of take care of or address, because sometimes a lot of these things don't come to light. So when you're able to kind of see it, feel it, and attack those issues proactively, you kind of can put some of the fires out before they become fires. So all of this is kind of building towards that psychological safety, that kind of support mechanisms around the team, to build trust as well between each other, but also to build touch between leadership and the people on the ground, which I think is so important.
Such a fantastic approach. I mean, like you say, it makes total sense when you think about it. But often, especially small businesses, I don't do all these things. I know how important it is, and I want to be able to do it all. But it's so fantastic to hear the amazing things you're doing. I think that support mechanism is hugely important, and there's lots of different ways you can deploy that. But you're setting a fantastic example, Abdul. It's amazing. So that was point 3, I think, wasn't it? Support mechanisms.
Yes.
You can probably remember them all, but I'm going to keep checking my phone anyway. So the 4th one that I have is leadership. Is that right? Hang on. No, that's the mindset.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Mindset, finding a way, making a way, and a first principles thinking approach. Tell me about that.
So it's all kind of evolutionary, right? So you find the right people, you build that sort of environment around them, make sure there's sort of trust that's built as a core principle between everyone in the organization, and you put the different mechanisms in place to facilitate that. Then it's down to the individual. So if you want to achieve high levels of performance, you've got to have the right mindset. And so these are the things that we look for when we're sort of hiring people, but also there's some principles that I put in place to help them. So finding a way and making a way is a principle that I'm a big fan of. It is a mindset. It's sort of creative problem solving. It's the attitude of, I'm going to find a way out of this, or I'm going to make a way. And I'll share a story with you, which I love, and I sort of use it to kind of bring this to life a little bit. It's the Michelin story. So Michelin tires, as you're familiar with, big organization right now. In the 1900s, they had a massive problem, and the problem was people were not buying enough tires because people were not driving enough or frequently enough. So what do you do in that situation? You've got a big profit problem because you're making quality tires that are not getting worn out and that don't need replacing quick enough. So your revenue generating stream is much wider than you would have liked. And there's a couple of options that you can do. You can make poorer quality tires, right? Which isn't great, or you could hike the prices, right, to claw back some of that revenue. What Michelin decided to do was understand the core root of the problem, which is people aren't traveling far enough. And the reason why people aren't traveling far enough or frequently enough is because this is pre-internet stage, pre-Google. They weren't actually aware of all the places to go. So they launched this magazine and they handed it out to all of their customers. It was almost like a travel guide, which gave recommendations of restaurants and hotels and hotspots that they could travel to, right? Conveniently located as far away as possible, right? And also next to a Michelin garage. So what ended up happening was people were taking these recommendations, finding places to go, obviously driving more, visiting more places, tires were getting more worn out. And hey presto, you've got a Michelin garage nearby. So they were able to solve this problem that they had, not compromising anything from their value stream, not burdening the customer with poorer quality or higher prices, but creatively thinking really outside the box and being able to provide an additional value stream for the customer. And if you haven't joined the dots, that Michelin guide right now is the Michelin star rating that we have in restaurants, right?
I was about to ask you that.
Yeah.
How did I not know that? I feel so dumb right now.
Yeah. So they've completely generated a whole new value stream, a whole new credibility in a whole new space, but driving and fixing a core problem that they had in their core business.
So clever. I'm Googling all of this after. I mean, that is just incredible. And again, comes probably from the innovative culture and the, I guess, ability to let their staff and their teams come up with, quite wacky and different ideas, and look what it's created. I mean, that's just amazing.
So that's what I take for the team. And I say, use that to find a way or make your way in any situation that you're dealt with.
That is amazing. I love it. That's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
Such a good social clip there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Abdul. Okay, the last one, which I am very keen on.
Yeah.
Vision and ambition.
Yeah.
So how do you set that?
So I think here's where you got to lead from the front. One of my favorite books is Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And if you don't read the book, the title itself is so much value. The ability to sacrifice yourself as a leader for the benefit of the group, because you need to lead the way. So if you want high performance, you've got to show high performance, and you've got to invest in high performance. And I think that's always so crucial, is you've got to set the ambition, and you've got to drill it in on a daily basis, say, this is the ambition that we're trying to achieve, which is a high performance culture, high levels of excellence. You've got to set the bar high. And you've also, the challenge then is, once you start getting close to that bar, you've got to then set a new bar, because high performance should always be evolving, because you're sort of striving, working towards a level of excellence. And once you're sort of near there, you've got to move the bar. So you as a leader have got to lead from the front in that regard. And that's probably the best way to summarize it, is that book by Simon Sinek, which is Leaders Eat Last, is put yourself out there, roll your sleeves up, get involved, and show people what the levels of excellence required is by you achieving it in everything that you do first and foremost. So everything that we've discussed here would be really pushing the barriers as a leader to say, look, I'm going out of the way to really push the levels here. I want you guys to follow in your own discipline.
Yeah. And I think setting that early, right? Like that's something that, again, probably we haven't set out enough when we're interviewing people, is one of my values at Street is about being extra, and that, and I probably represent, if there was one word I could describe myself with, it would be extra. Like I was talking to you about my day today. Like I plan too many things. I put the extra effort in. I want everything that we deliver to be, the best. So making it really clear when we're recruiting people that that's our vision as a business. That is one of our core values. If you're not willing to be extra, don't take the interview process any further. And I'm actually being quite strict about that now, because we hadn't made that clear enough before. And I think that hugely changes who we attract. We're going to put it in the job ads. Like, it's important, because otherwise we attract the wrong people who aren't up for that mission. Yeah. And they shouldn't be. Yeah. They shouldn't be with us, because that's it. We're a small business. If they want to, be in a less pressured environment, then they need to go somewhere else, because that's not who we are.
And I think the follow-on from this is, that's all easy to say. And I think that the bit as a leader to lead is then to show them the tactical way of actually achieving it.
Yeah.
So 2 more thoughts I'll share with you. First principles thinking. So we want to achieve high levels of excellence, and that's the ambition. How do you get there? And first principles thinking is breaking everything down into its core fundamental components and working from there. One of the most sort of high performing athletes that I look to is Novak Djokovic, and definitely falls into the camp of more hard work than natural talent, and really working hard to get the most out of his talent. And I always prefer those, because it's more realistic and achievable for people to say, look, you've obviously got a level of talent there, but then let's put the hard grafts in to actually make the most of the talent that you have. And Djokovic's story in terms of how vision can kind of work as a negative, because everyone says set that North Star vision and have the ambition to be the best that you can. And so did Djokovic. It was like, I want to be the best in the world. But the pressure and the stress that came with that ambition was starting to derail him. So every time he lost a game, every time he lost a match, the anxiety would creep in, self-doubt would creep in. This loss is derailing me from my ambition. And so you're doubling down on yourself. The pressure is getting to you. Your judgment is becoming clouded. So when you take the first principles approach that Djokovic did, which is, right, I want to be best in the world. What do I need to do? I need to win Grand Slams. Okay. What do I need to win? What do I need to do to win Grand Slams? I need to win matches. What do I need to do to win matches and to win sets? What do I need to do to win sets? I need to win each point. And when you kind of tunnel vision and single it in on that first fundamental principle to allow you to then achieve the rest of your goals, in this case, a single point, you have clear focus, you remove the noise, you remove emotional baggage that you might have carried from the previous point, and you're just a single thought, clarity of mind, improved decision making, because you're just I need to win this point. And if you lose that point, you're able to compartmentalize it into a section in your brain and say, right, didn't happen, next point. The next point is the one that's going to get to my goal. And then once you start doing that, then you start unlocking marginal gains, because it's about, right, every percent that I can improve is going to lead me there. And so Djokovic went from like outside 100 in the world to number 1 in the world within like 4 years. And his win percentage, I can't remember on top of my head, but during that period, it was only about 7% improvement across multiple years. So it's not a huge improvement overnight. It's just marginal over a period of time. And I think so that's the tactical, real way that you have to approach things with the team is, yeah, here's the ambition. And that's all well. You see that in any leadership talk and everyone's like, that's great, makes me feel good. But how do I achieve it? And it's putting those things in place to allow them to achieve it. I've got one more related to that, but
no, go for it. I want to hear you. This is about you, Abdul, not me.
So then the other thing that prevents people is, and this is in the broader topic of emotional intelligence, because when you're in a corporate environment, certain situations and politics and all of that can kind of derail the whole thing. So I have a 3-step process in terms of how to deal with conflict and how to be more emotionally intelligent about things, which is think, evaluate, respond, right? So you see a situation and the first thing is think, do I need to respond? Is this worth my energy? Do I delegate it? Or do I respond but only go to a certain level and then withdraw the rest of my energy around it? I had a previous boss who gave me probably the best advice I've ever had. I'll give him a shout. His name is Sandeep from Cisco. And he always used to tell me, choose your battles. And that's stuck with me through life, personal, professional. And it's the ability to stop in that moment and think, do I need to deal with this battle? And sometimes as a leader and as a manager, you can't deal with everything. And you need to choose and pick your battles, essentially, where you provide your energy and learning to let go. Easier said than done, of course. But that's the first step, is think, choose your battles. Next is evaluate. And the only way you can evaluate a situation is if you're able to detach yourself emotionally from that situation, to be able to think objectively what would be the right response. Because when you're emotionally attached to things subjectively, and you can never get that point across to the other person, if you think what the objective response is, no one can argue with it. And that's difficult because you've got to take yourself out of that situation and sometimes say something that might be against what you really believe in. But if you want to get, a conflict resolved or a decision through the door or take other people on that journey with you, you've got to think objectively. And then the final point is respond, but respond with the what rather than the why. So rather than why does this happen or why has this happened or why are you asking me to do this, more about what can we do to solve this? What can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? What can we do to move forward? So those are kind of a few things that you then put in place to say, it's not just setting the ambition and say, right, we want to get here. It's then putting the things in place and showing the team and putting some of the principles and decision-making frameworks in place for them to actually follow suit. And then, because they look to you as a leader to follow, right? They don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers as a leader as it is, but can you provide something from them? Because they look to you for tactical approaches to certain things. Strategy, overdone, right? You have a lot of people that give in strategy, but then the people that you're delivering that strategy to are then left with, okay, that's great, but how do I actually achieve it? So I think it's so important to set the vision, set the ambition, set the strategic direction, but then also show them how it can be done.
I honestly feel like I've been in a coaching session. You've given me so much to think about, like amazing tactical advice on how to be a bloody fantastic leader.
Yeah. Well, you're supposed to be coaching my team.
I know. You don't need me. Honestly, that was amazing. Yeah. Abdul, thank you. Now, on that, we are going to end this podcast now. But if you enjoyed it, what Abdul and I are now going to do is we're going to stay on for another 5-10 minutes and talk about, well, the amazing brief that you've given me, which again, I think really displays your commitment to your team and culture, because we're going to be working on a program of work and a whole mentorship scheme that is empowering, well, the women in your team to grow in their careers. So if you're interested to hear more from Abdul, make sure you've subscribed to the podcast, because next week we're going to be talking about how we're going to be working together to empower the females within Eon Next. Well, the next, we've branded it. We've branded it Eon Next's Next Future Females.
Yes.
So yeah, come back next week, guys.